So we're having there's wonderful people from Asana tonight, Emily Davis and Margarita Rosa from the international team. They're going to explain us a little bit about the story of Asana, which is a great startup with an incredible set of founders and great VC behind it. So that may explain with all of this success. But first I want to know, who are you? I mean, how long have you been at Asana? What are you exactly doing there? Tell us a bit about yourself.
So, hi everyone, my name is Margarita. I'm originally from Colombia. I moved to San Francisco almost 10 years ago. I actually didn't have background in technology. When I was in Colombia, I worked in CPG companies, so Procter & Gamble and Colgate. So when I moved to San Francisco, I was like, oh, I want to go to the same direction. And I ended up working with an incubator kitchen, so working with low-income women entrepreneurs to help them launch their business. So I created all the marketing curriculum for them, and I worked there like 2 years and launched them businesses from like food trucks to catering companies to restaurant, really fulfilling experience. From there, like during that experience at La Cocina, I met a lot of like volunteers who work in tech. So I was like, well, I kind of want to try, like now I'm here like in Silicon Valley, might as well, like I need like to work in the tech industry, and I got absorbed by the tech bubble. I work at Evernote. You have the t-shirt there. For 4 years, I actually worked with the Latin American team, helping growing like the user base. When I joined, there were like 2 million users. When I left, it was like 20 million. Brazil and Mexico were our most important markets, so we did a lot of events here. In Brazil, working with the developer community was really important for us. That was the way that we can like grew our user base. And from there, I decided that I wanted to learn a little bit more about like international and not only Latin America. So I joined Weebly, which is the competitor of Wix, is a website builder. I worked there for 1.5 years on the international team as well. And working more on scalable, like how to scale the business. So more on like the localization, creating marketing programs in different languages. And I worked there for 1.5 years, and from there, I started working at Asana as the international marketing lead and also localization lead. Making sure that working on making sure that our product was available in 4 different languages, and also each market has different nuances, so creating a specific marketing strategy for our priority markets.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so how long at Asana? 2 years? 1 year?
1.5 years. Yeah.
And yourself?
Cool. Hi everyone, my name is MP, like 2 letters, MP. I am from the States originally. Let's see, I got my start in my career in emerging markets. I was living in East Africa for several years, running and launching businesses, working for a private family conglomerate. And while I was over there, I worked with a lot of really innovative tech companies. So because the internet infrastructure in Africa is relatively new. They've kind of leapfrogged. I don't know if you've heard that term before. People like to say that you know their telecoms and their infrastructure kind of leapfrogged a little bit what we have in the States, and so mobile money was really big, and Pesa, a lot of things that started there. And so I worked a lot with tech companies over there, and I knew I wanted to come back to the States and work in tech as well. So I went to business school, so I'm on the business side. After business school, I was in San Francisco working for a company called NerdWallet. It's a personal finance company. I was working on the product, business operations, and strategy side, so working a lot with our engineers to do a lot of A/B testing and to make sure that our users were getting the most value out of the product possible. So I really enjoyed working with the product side there. And then I joined Asana in spring, so I've been there for about 9 months now. And my role is to help Asana expand internationally. So we're growing really, really quickly as a company. We can give more history on the company and how it came to be, but we're growing very quickly year over year, and especially internationally. So we've got a lot of growth here in Brazil. We've got an office in Dublin focused on our European markets. We just opened up our office in Sydney, Australia. So it's a really exciting time. Our product is just really taking off, but I think it's important tonight for us to highlight why our product is able to scale so quickly and the importance of building that really strong product foundation and a product that users really love and that they want to continue to use over and over again.
Yeah, just a quick question for the audience. Who around here already tried or use Asana or know Asana?
Okay, so a couple people.
Yeah. Okay, I would say a third, 25%. Third. Can you describe in very short description what's Asana for?
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask if anyone, even if you had described what the product was. So Asana is a work management software. Just to keep it really easy, I'll kind of give up some of our comparison products like Trello or Rike, maybe Jira. Probably some of you are familiar with Jira. We're a slightly different use case, but really we help teams to collaborate and work together efficiently, track all of their work. We visualize work in timeline in a Gantt chart format so that people can easily work together, especially as teams are working asynchronously, so at different times, different time zones. Remotely in different countries, people are seeing this pain point a lot more, and so Asana is a software that enables people to work together just much more quickly and efficiently. And again, it's an interesting story of how we came to be, but that's the main gist. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I miss anything?
We will have a Q&A at the end if they don't understand. They will ask.
Yeah, in 2 words, it's a project management tool that can be customized for different use cases, team. That's kind of like the beauty of the product.
And the founder, one of the most famous founder, there are 2 actually, but one of the 2 is actually one of the co-founder of Facebook.
Yeah.
So is the story that he actually used a tool like that at Facebook that afterwards...
He actually created a Facebook before.
Yeah. Do you want to use that or do you want to? So yes, you've done your research. That's great, Matthew. You already know who our founders are. So the way that we like to describe Asana is that it's a 10-year-old idea, it's a 6-year-old product, and it's a 3-year-old business. So going back to the very beginning, our founder, Dustin Moskovitz, was college roommates with someone you may know. His name's Mark Zuckerberg, a company called Facebook. I'm kidding. I know you guys know probably Facebook. So Mark Zuckerberg and Dustin Moskovitz co-founded Facebook together. And when Dustin was managing the engineering team at Facebook, it was growing so quickly. They were scaling so quickly that he was like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know who's working on what. We're like launching and moving so quickly. So he and this guy, Justin Rosenstein, or we call him JR, the 2 of them together built this tool called Tasks. Like a task, like you check task off. And it's actually that foundation, that infrastructure of that tool is still being used today in Facebook. So all the new features that you're seeing roll out, except we have nothing to do with any of the fake news, that I promise. but
only the good parts.
Only the good parts. Only the good features that you like. So that is still being used today in Facebook. So Dustin and JR, the 2 engineers, were building out tasks while working at Facebook. And then after a few years, they said, oh, this is such a cool business idea, and we really enjoy helping teams work together really quickly and work really well, that we want to make our own business out of it. So Dustin and JR left Facebook and founded Asana. And so that led us to when Asana became its own company. But you say it took another few years before it was really a business. Yes.
So it's first a product.
It was a product within Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, but and even when they started the company, the idea was to build a product that people use and their business model will see. Which is the definition of a startup. First you do something people are interested in, and then you figure out how to make money out of it.
Yeah, and also like our mission is like help humanity thrive. So for them it was like really important. Like they see all like the benefits on Facebook, and they were like, well, we want to help humanity thrive through like this business. And I think that something that is really interesting about Asana is that for them it also like took them like more years, is because when they decided to like start like a startup, like they not only focus on the product but also on the culture, and they wanted to make sure that the culture of the company that they were forming was like right since the beginning. And what is really unique about Asana is like they treat the culture as like a product as well. Like they will have like different goals to achieve with the culture. Like I think that they even have like a product roadmap just for the culture.
They have a cultural roadmap of
yeah,
years.
no, yeah, that was like different like milestones that they wanted to, and that has been really unique about Asana. And I think that now that we're like growing so fast, like how, and we talk a lot about in Silicon Valley what is specific about the culture of Asana.
But when it was launched as a company, it was everything free, right? At first.
Yeah, so
There was
a
features. So it's a freemium model, right?
it's a freemium model, yeah. So Asana was a free product for the first few years. Our founders, Dustin and JR, are very, very product focused, obviously coming from the engineering team at Facebook. We're always very, very product first as a company, continually. And so they really wanted to spend time making sure that the infrastructure of the product was really high quality, so that when we were ready to scale, like we're doing right now, that it could really handle many users, many different features, we could launch rapidly. So one thing that may be interesting, especially for this audience, is a big product decision that our founders had to make in the early days. So who knows the language React? Everyone knows the React.
They don't learn React here,
No? But everyone knows.
They will.
They will.
They should.
Okay.
It's a development language.
So React, you can probably explain better than I can, but it's a coding language that was built out of Facebook. I have that right?
It's not exactly a language, but
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay, so when Dustin and JR left Facebook, React had not been invented yet. And one of the things that React is good for is that when you push the like button on Facebook, it doesn't have to reload a new page, right?
Yep.
Okay, so when they left Facebook, that hadn't been invented, and they essentially, in parallel with the Facebook team, started to try to invent something similar. And about 1 or 2 years down the line, they were working on this product continually, and it was already being used. It was already a free version. They realized that the infrastructure that they had built was not as good as the React language that had been built at Facebook. And they faced this huge decision of, okay, do we pause and do we rebuild our entire product? Essentially, redo the foundation while a product's still being used. So it's kind of like changing the wings on an airplane while you're flying. That sounds pretty dangerous, but it worked.
Shouldn't do that.
Yeah, probably
But they
not,
did.
but they did. And we actually just finished that overhaul about almost a year ago now. And so we have our own database, our own language that they essentially rewrote and recoded every feature of the product, so that now it's on what we call Luna 2, is like our new database. And that was a huge product decision for us, but it's already paying off because we are now shipping features so quickly, and we're able to scale really quickly. So I think that was a very big and expensive decision for them to make, but it pays off in the long run.
I'm interested in, because one of the key thing in those models is exactly the roadmap. What are the features that are needed? What are the features that are going to help convert more to freemium, from free to premium? Mm-hmm. How is it organized? I mean, how do they get feedback from users? How do they decide to scrap something or launch something new?
You can talk about
Can you talk a little bit about that? Or not really?
You can talk. I think that what is really unique, which I don't know if it's totally.
For instance, if you launch
question.
Latin America, you have things that you need to adapt for sure. So how does this?
Yeah, actually,
work?
we have an approach that is really similar to what we had at Evernote. Like, we don't create specific features for regions or country. We believe that the way that we have built our software will work no matter where you are. I think that is more about localizing in a different language, or making sure that you have different use cases that that audience will understand. I think what was really unique for Asana when I joined is that they don't have a QA team. So basically all the employees are the ones who QA the product. So that is pretty unique of Asana compared to other companies that I have worked. Is that they believe that the employees are the ones who have to dog food, all the bugs and report that.
So you all work on Asana, on the next Asana?
Yeah, the beta.
You're the beta tester.
We
How
are the
many
guinea
people
pigs
work
every
on
day.
Asana?
350?
Okay, so that's good enough for a QA team.
Yes, we do have a research team on the product side. For example, based on your question that you were saying, when we internationalize, we do like make sure that we have that product market fit. So in the next few months, we wanted to launch in Japanese. So I'm actually going to Tokyo in 2 weeks to meet with non-existing customers and also like existing customers. And we will have a research session where we will like show them like Asana localized in Japanese and also like the positioning and messaging. And we want to make sure that the flows because the hypothesis is what I just told you. We think that the way that we have structured our software works for anywhere, but we have to actually prove that hypothesis. So we do like product research. So we have someone on the engineering side, on the product side, on the marketing side. We're going all together to Tokyo to have these research sessions to make sure that the way that we have a structure, our product is going to work for that market. Because in Japan, you can think about hierarchical challenges where like maybe someone will not assign a task to their boss because that's not like socially like well perceived, you know. So.
And do you consider the Asana a B2B product or a B2C product?
It can be both, but our model and our target is B2B. And not only is that because
it's for teams, so it's
exactly. So the value prop that we really push is that we are for teams, and we get feedback a lot from people who want to use Asana just as an individual, and you can, the free version you can, but our premium tier, which is the first up from free, is only for teams of 5 or more. And we get a lot of feedback saying, oh, I want the premium features, but I'm just using it for, maybe I'm a freelancer, or maybe I just like to run my life out of Asana. But we stay, everyone at Asana really does that, yeah, very, very organized. But we stay really, really true to our original value prop, which is that we want to help teams collaborate. So even though we're getting different product feedback and requests, it's very important to stay focused and remember who your number one user is. And for us, that's teams. Now that can be teams of a lot of different sizes. It can be from 5 up to one of our accounts has 3,500 users within one company. So it's a very large span, but we really want to stay true to our mission and not get distracted by too many requests. And we have a whole process that incorporates product feedback and user feedback that we can talk more about too, but that's a very important piece for us, is to always stay focused on the main user.
And in terms of growth, you're saying that it's accelerating. Is it just because of the marketing that you can spend because of the fundraising, or also because the product now has the key features that you discovered because it takes time? Is it both? How do you consider this hockey stick?
We're also seeing the beauty of like meeting with customers and going around the world to meet those customers is also to see that there's this new theme of digital transformation. So I think that there's like both of like all the marketing activities that we do, but also is like a lot of like companies are now wanting to be part of that digital transformation and moving their companies into like tools that help them to collaborate better and start like changing that traditional mindset, which I think that is like fascinating, you know, and like we're part of that wave of other tools also are there, but we're like we want to be part of those companies or like start thinking of like, okay, how we can change the mindset and like start like collaborating better with these type of tools instead of like just working. What we're seeing, for example, here in Brazil is that they're having challenges of like we work really well as a team, but when we have to work with other areas is where like the kind of like the things start like breaking. So Asana can actually help to overcome that challenge and like make everyone to collaborate better. And I think that is not specific to Asana, it's just that a lot of these traditional companies that want to go through like this digital transformation way.
And how do you see Asana as a, I don't know if it's a consequence of or cause of the evolution of work, of teamwork?
Yeah.
You mentioned that it's asynchronous, it's possibly remote. Mm-hmm. So those are things that probably 20 years ago that were completely impossible.
Yeah.
I see Asana and all those project management tools as something that help kill the meeting culture, where you need to meet every week in boring, and everybody needs to stay there to know what everybody's doing. When you have a board that is actually up to date, you don't need that anymore, or way less. What are your insights about the company that gets it and the one that don't? I mean, it's also a cultural question at the company to be able to switch from.
Yeah. I think we have, there's a bit of a spectrum that we see. So as Margarita mentioned, a lot of really established, older, larger companies are seeing this digital transformation. So they're seeing Amazon, they're seeing Google, they're seeing all these companies coming to disrupt what has been traditional business up until now. So, I mean, look at retail, right? Like brick and mortar is just getting crushed right now by e-commerce. So everyone's scrambling. Walmart's like, oh, we need to build a big e-commerce platform. Okay, we need to hire more technical talent. I mean, you're all here learning how to code because there's massive demand for coders because of this big digital transformation. So we have a lot of companies that are looking to keep up and kind of readjust, as Margarita was saying, to make sure that they are staying agile, that they're staying efficient, that they're moving quickly. And then we also have companies that are startups that they also just get it from day one. So
that's the way they want to work from day one.
That's their mindsets are already open to that, so we don't have to do a lot of that mindset shift that Margarita mentioned. And so we see different types of users. So those are some who are just like, okay, we want the best tools, we want to move quickly, we want to work quickly, and we grow with the company. So some of our biggest like tech clients like Airbnb, Uber, we have a lot of like companies that we've grown with that are now massive names that you would all know about. And then we also have a lot of big traditional companies like telecoms, a lot of media companies, some manufacturing companies that realize this need for this transformation, and it's more of a wake-up call for them to say, okay, we need to move quickly or Amazon's going to come and take all of our business away. So it's really cool to see that those different types of profiles, but as Margarita said, we see it everywhere. So we've been recently to Sydney, we've in Australia, we've been all over Europe, and it's all the same pain points, it's all the same questions of, you know, people are working in different time zones, we have freelancers, it's hard to understand what everyone's doing all at once. So we're seeing that trend globally.
And the selling of the product, what part happens organically? People hear about it and create an account and put a credit card number and that's it. And what's the part that you really need to showcase and convince different departments in the company and really do a B2B sales and the whole contract?
Yeah, so this is when it's really important, not only your product, but also the business model that you match with your product is very important. The first thing I'll say about the product that is important to keep in mind is that the benefit of having a product that is required or really shines with teams is that, well, you need multiple users, right? So you sign on and you go onto Asana.com and Mathieu makes your original user address, but then you're inviting me, you're inviting Margarita, you're inviting Rodolfo, you're inviting all your teammates, and all of a sudden Asana now has 10 to 15 users. So there's something that is viral about the product that lends itself well to expansion because of the nature of the product, right? It's meant for teams. So that's something to keep in mind. That is just really great organic growth for your product so that it spreads quickly, is that you want it to be collaborative, you want it to be viral or social in some nature. So that's the first piece that I would really encourage, and that's something that's really worked well for us. In terms of adoption and the business model, so we have a couple different ways that you can approach it. So as I mentioned, you can go online and you can sign up for an account and invite your whole team, and that's completely self-serve. We call that self-serve. I don't know if that's like a common business model. Yeah. So you can go on and just sign up right away. Now, you could be a startup of 5 people, or you could be a team of 5 people at Nike, which is what we have. A digital marketing team within Nike that said, okay, we need to move quickly. And now we have hundreds of users within Nike, but it started with 5 people. So you can start on that end of the spectrum. You can start with self-serve. We also have companies like some of these bigger traditional ones that I was mentioning that the CEO is saying, okay, we really need to move, but that takes more change management. That's a very intricate process where you need to bring in sales and customer success and user operations to help that entire company make this massive shift and mindset. And so those are different ways that we see adoption of the product, and one is much more personal and high touch, so we have to have a lot of involvement from all those different teams I mentioned, but they're also the ones that make the most money. So,
and we have seen, we have seen in both that what is common is that we have a champion, an evangelist. We have someone that really believes like in the product, like in the benefits, and it's start like from that person that we can see how it spreads. Either it's like the CEO or like someone who is an individual contributor.
And do you, when you sell, do you usually have like partners that would recommend? I'm thinking consultants or tech partners. I don't know.
Yeah, we just launched
or software vendors that say you should use our product using that Asana as well.
That's a really good question. Yeah, so we just launched 6 months ago, or like actually we just hired 6 months ago our head of global community. So we really believe about the power of having these brand ambassadors and evangelists, and we created with that community program. So we have certified consultants where like we train them to basically like because we don't have the sales force like to just work specifically with one client, understand the workflow, and create a specific solution. So what we do is that we train these people who become like certified consultant, and they can work specifically with this client, understanding like the workflow. So we have that right now worldwide. We don't have yet like a reseller program, but we're like approaching it more from like the community side.
Okay. And do you work with telcos? Telco can recommend, not as a client, but they could recommend who? No.
We've started those, not yet. We've started those conversations. Those are great opportunities for channel partnerships. So there's two different types of partnerships that can be really, really powerful to help get your product out into the market. So the first one is channel partners. So that can be telcos who like maybe sell the phones with the app already installed, or can recommend the product to their customers. That can also be consulting firms when they go into a company that's trying to digitally transform. They can say, hey, I know this really great product called Asana. Maybe I should help you guys learn about it. So that's one channel that you can really helps get your product out into the world. There's also a second type of partner that you can call strategic partnerships. And those are other brands that you can partner with to do some co-marketing and to kind of integrate with. So one thing that's worked really well at Asana is that our developers, our product team, have built so many integrations with our product so that they work and talk seamlessly with other products. So for us in the enterprise B2B SaaS place, that means Slack, that means Gmail, that means Microsoft Outlook. So it's in our interest as a company to make sure that our product is speaking really, really well with all of these other ones so that people can collaborate across these different tools. And you can see that even in something like Instagram and Facebook. I mean, obviously now they've been under the same company now for a while, but you can post to Instagram and it goes right to Facebook. So kind of they partner together, right? So that they kind of increase user retention and adoption that way. So it's another way to do it.
The beauty of APIs.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
At Evernote, we work really closely with telcos. So we did a partnership with Vivo here in Brazil and Telefonica across Latin America, and we also did a partnership with Samsung Brazil, where like we had our app preload on their phones. So that was a way that we actually got a lot of like new users. So I saw the benefits from that.
Yeah.
And we also did a partnership with Visa Latin America.
How is your I don't know if you can tell us a lot about the numbers, but how is the mobile versus desktop usage? Is it mostly desktop, mobile? How does that work?
At Asana?
Yeah. The user. You have an app, so do they use it more on the mobile or desktop?
We do have an app on Android
On Android, but not on iOS?
On iOS as well, on both.
Oh, okay.
And we have our web app. We don't have an app native just to OS. I think that we have, the majority of our users use it on the web app. I think like the mobile app is more like to check, but not like, it's not like really to like do your work and collaborate in there.
Access.
Do you have any like a specific number on the usage?
Not that we would be able to share, but I think the value prop of our product, we were intentionally desktop first. We're not a mobile first product, but mobile is very, very important to us because it's part of the user engagement and adoption, so that most of our users are working in offices on their laptops, on their monitors, and that's really where Asana shines because we have so many different features that are really, really powerful. But when you leave the office, as we've mentioned, people are working asynchronously, they're working while they're on vacation, hopefully not, but a lot of people are, and they're working from the beach maybe, you need to be able to keep up with what's going on. So having your mobile app open and making it useful is still really, really important to user retention and making sure that they're logging in and really adopting the product really well. But that's not where the power really shines. Although actually 2 days ago we were ranked the #1 app in the iOS App Store, the app of the day 2 days ago. So I can't tell you exact numbers, but our charts for mobile downloads went very high.
And I think that
powerful.
as we think more in international markets, of course, this market penetration is really high.
And I don't know if you have the answer to my question, but usually I know that for especially freemium model, the engagement and retention of the user is key. You want people to try and then get hooked and decide to never leave the country. And lots of company pay a lot of efforts and try to understand the famous aha moment. For instance, at Twitter, they actually communicate on that, and they say that people at Twitter to get actually engaged needs to at least follow, or I don't remember the exact number, but like 10 or 15 accounts. And then they get a feed that makes sense, and they can engage. And if they reach this 15 kind of following number, then we know that you have kind of this thing at Asana. What's exactly in the product? The thing that if the user is going to do it, then you're good. It's going to get hooked.
Yeah, I think it's really important when you are developing your product to think about what metrics are going to really guide your development and are indicative of growth and adoption and retention. So this has been something that Asana's worked on repeatedly over the past almost decade, I guess. And so for us, particular to our business, what's really important is to see number of collaborative actions done by a user over a distinct period of time. I know that's a mouthful, but there's different variations. So we have different internal names for that, like 3D28 means 3 users who did 1 collaborative action each in the past 28 days. So we have different tiers of that. So some people who do 5 actions within 7 days, you can look at it more broadly or really, really tightly scoped. But we do have kind of similar to what you're saying about Twitter. There's kind of this like tilting point that we have found that when you turn into a product qualified lead is what we call it, like a PQL. When we see that type of engagement with a free account, we know that there's a very high likelihood that they will convert into a premium paying user. So those are the ones that we really focus on, and we call those product qualified leads. There's also marketing qualified leads, and those are the different ways that we kind of test for when users are really ready.
You adapt your communication depending on how they behave to.
Like PQLs are really unique.
Really hook the one that are more engaged.
I never know we didn't have PQLs. That was really unique from Asana as well. And related to your question, we do have a team on the product side that is just focused on first experience. So it's really So it's really making sure that when a user sign up, we're providing the right information for them as they're using the product. I think that what I can see some similarities about Evernote and Asana is that when a user will download the product, or in this case we'll sign up, it will be blank, so it's how do I start?
This is a key question that I have for you. It's how do you teach your product when it's free on the internet and you can only communicate through the product? You don't have someone explaining, and you don't want to do enormous tutorials that no one actually reads and just skip. So what happens when you open Asana? Was it a big focus on improving engagement? And
so right now we're actually the reason why we have this team is that we realize based on research and feedback that we're having from our users that we have to really understand what is the reason that they're looking or downloading or using Asana. So we're working on what we call segmentation. So if they're looking for, we're a marketing team, we wanted to start customizing those flows for marketing team. So I'm providing templates, so they're not like lost when they like sign up to Asana and it's blank. It's like, how do I start? Like, what template should I use?
And you qualify the user, like asking what's his intention, if it's more business, marketing.
And what we want to do is like from the whole customer journey to have that experience. So since they're like going to Google and looking like, project management for marketing teams, being able to have like a landing page that is talking to that users and seeing templates that are related to that, specifically when they sign up, they will be able to see those templates. So that will help us with our adoption and like retention rate. And I have seen, I'm like actually really surprised that Evernote like took them almost 4 years to create templates for the user to just launch it like 3 weeks ago too. But that was like the feedback that I would constantly have. I'm like, I love Evernote, but how specifically I use it for like my B2B.
Right when you come into a new product, especially if it's a complex enterprise level product, having like start here, step number 1, and then like another bubble pops up with like, and this is where you can create your tasks, and having in product step-by-step tutorials. So it's not the boring how-to blog posts that only like our really, really dedicated users go and use. A lot of people do like those resources, but a lot of people just want to be shown the way. And so the more hand-holding that you can do, the better, so that you can guide your users to really be leveraging your product and getting the most value out of it.
And is working cross-functionally is like not only the responsibility of the product team, it's actually marketing and like our user education team. So it's like how we can work cross-functionally to make this happen and start like connecting the dots of like, okay, like these users are already on board, like he's doing X, Y, Z actions, like what is the marketing email that trigger that action, and from there, like on that marketing email, what are like the user education courses that we can include. So it's kind of like connecting those dots and working cross-functionally to make it happen.
I'm gonna give the audience the chance to ask questions, but so think about the question. But first, I have one last question, and then prepare your questions. I see this trend. I wanted to have your reaction on that. I see this trend, especially coming from the US, that actually the B2C approach to product is eating B2B for breakfast. What I mean by that is that whenever you launch a product and you make the effort that the product is understandable and usable by anyone, and that's what I say B2C. Like anyone can have a free version, and you need to be relevant for them. Then B2B is way easier. If you go the other way and you start B2B, you're gonna go after the big account, and the big account will demand that you make a product just for them with a specific request of this big account, and then these specific things will make you have to do all of it again for the second customer and so on, because they're all big and very demanding. What do you think about that? When you see Dropbox, when you see all those products that now of course make money in B2B, they were born out of the B2C need, and they start little but then grew like crazy.
Yeah.
You see the same thing?
I lived that at Evernote. It was similar to Dropbox. There were really pioneers because they basically launched when the iPhone launched, and that for that reason they were so successful. And to be honest, when I joined Evernote, it was more about like increasing our user base. It was not about monetization. And I saw that shift after like 3 years of like, okay, like we have, you have investors, like Evernote raised $250 million. It was like the investors, and that is more about Silicon Valley, like at year 7, between year 7 and 10, your investors are going to start telling, where is my return of investment? And it was really interesting to see like how in Silicon Valley, like all these companies, because it was the same moment, like Dropbox, Evernote, like start like thinking, okay, we need to start monetizing these users, and it wasn't that easy as they thought, because I saw like Evernote before I left, like doing pricing changing, doing different like prices depending on like the regions, moving like free features to like more premium plans, and like having the user base mad at them like so bad, and I think that we're like seeing in Silicon Valley that now actually in order to raise money, is like really different from 10 years ago. You know, before I was like, okay, yeah, they have like 100 million users, that's great, and they were not like really focused on how to monetize those users. I have been seeing that shifting in the mindsets of like investors of like, no, now you have to show how you're monetizing your users since day one. Yeah, since day one. No matter if like you're B2C and you have a premium model or like you're B2B.
Yeah, I think all of that is right, and it's important that for us, for Asana as a company, initially it was really important to have that, it was free version for quite some time before we launched any sort of paid version, and they really wanted to get the infrastructure right, which is what I was mentioning earlier about like rewriting all the code base, but also it was important to make sure that it resonated with the users, whether that was a 5-person team in a startup, in a co-working space, or whether that was the digital marketing team at Nike. Now, as we're seeing the product really evolve and mature, we are adding more features and we're adding new pricing tiers, and yes, we are able to go more enterprise, and that's not only for like obviously the monetary aspects of it that we're talking about in regards to investors, but also because complex teams and larger companies need more complex products and complex features, but we don't want to lose that initial simplicity that is really great when that first B2C approach takes off. So we'll always continue to have that, and that's very important to Asana, that we maintain that user friendliness and that really just like easy onboarding. We want it to be as frictionless as possible so that you can adopt the product, start using it right out of the box. But as we are seeing more demand for this from traditional companies as they're undergoing all this disruption and digital transformation, there are extra enterprise level, I guess you could call them, features that we do want to add. So it's just about adding. It's not necessarily like we're changing completely a different direction. I would say it's just like adding more tools to our toolbox so that we can serve more use cases and larger needs and maybe make more money along the way.
Exciting thing.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, who goes? Who's going to ask the first question?
I got a question. So you guys work in Silicon Valley, right? So you guys are in many countries as well. What's the main difference? Like you're like, oh, that thing would happen in Silicon Valley. Or that thing would be easier if you were there. Like, what would you compare like Silicon Valley with other markets that Asana is also present?
In terms.
Tricky question.
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of like teams and how they're working, or do you mean in terms of like product development, or?
A bit of everything. Like sometimes it's easier. Like if one develop a partnership, the guy just just cross the road and then go to somewhere else. And then even in terms of teams, sometimes you have different cultures, and it's really hard to get everybody on the same page. Like probably you guys think in some way, and people think in another way. Like,
I think that's something that is really unique about Silicon Valley, is like the transparency that I see, like when we talk with some customers, like sometimes like, well, how do I manage, like I don't want to like have all these projects available for my team, like, and I think that is part like culturally, like, like as I'm from Latin America, so I can see like that difference sometimes of like how people are like, even or Asana specifically, because of the nature of our product, like you can go to any task and see what levels are working on and like what conversations they're having, and they're comfortable with that. It's not like never like the second thought of like, oh, this person that worked in the company might go to our competitors and say what is happening. I think that that's really interesting about like the culture, that I think that is a mindset that we still like don't have here, because we're maybe having that second opinion of like, what about it, like this person leave and like the information and all of this. I think that that's really unique about Silicon Valley, and I really like that. And something specifically to the work culture that it might not be related to Asana, the product itself, that I really like about Silicon Valley and that I learned when I moved from Colombia to San Francisco is the ability to say no. I feel that sometimes in Latin America we go in circles, and like it's not like I'm not able to say no to this because of this. So I was like, I love how straightforward people are, and also how open they are to feedback and criticism, and they don't see it as a threat. Where I have so many conversations with friends that are still working in Latin America, and sometimes like, oh, I'm afraid like to provide feedback to my manager or my coworker because they might be like hierarchy, or like they might see it as a threat. I think that what is really kind of like, and again, is about transparency and being open, is like having kind of like that feedback to my peer, to my manager, without feeling like dread about it, or like feeling that I'm going to lose my job the next day. So I really like about that, and I can see that there might be some like differences depending on the culture.
The one example that I'll give that I think displays like two really important traits of Silicon Valley is kind of this mindset that I learned when I was working a lot with product teams and helping them to iterate and improve. And this is a framework that we call HBML. So this is hypothesize, build, measure, and learn. And that's probably nothing new to any of you, right? It's about iteration and improvement over time. And I think that mindset is really strong in Silicon Valley, and it's really valuable for two reasons. So first, it shows that everything is very data-driven. Everything is measurable, right? So HBML, the M, measure. So you want to make sure that you have metrics, that you have goals, that you can improve over time. So that's really important. I think that's something that is not necessarily unique to Silicon Valley, but it's one trait that I really like about working there, is that everything can be measured. It's very analytics and data-driven. And then the second piece of HBML is what it also implies in terms of the ability to fail and embrace failure. So it's not even about failure, it's improvement. It's like relentless self-improvement. So you can say, okay, great, well, we tried that, A/B tested, and maybe B is better, but that doesn't mean that A failed. It means we succeeded because we're going with B, and now that's better. And then we can continue to do it again. So it's about this kind of continuous cycle of self-improvement, both for yourself, both for your team, for your product. So I think that, for me, is something that I really like about Silicon Valley, that it helps you to continually improve yourself.
Yeah, she touched on something really important too, that as a Latin American, I value really like that when I moved to Silicon Valley, is that they celebrate failure in a way. It's not like, I think that sometimes, and I think that things are changing in Latin America because we see more like startup hubs in different cities, but it's like, oh, you know what, exactly what she was saying, like you try and you learn a lot and you can actually apply those learnings here. It's not about like, oh, you fell and you're like a loser. No, we actually love to hire people that have tried to launch their own like startup and it didn't work, because that makes you driven, hungry enough, and that you have learned different part of like the business.
Another question.
Okay, so you guys said you're expanding internationally right now, and I guess this is more a cultural question. So it is a task management tool, right? And I guess people from different countries have a different view of like behavior, how they like to work. Sometimes they prefer less control, so they can be like more innovative. And sometimes other companies might want to have everything in deadlines and stuff. So how is that a challenge for you guys, the different cultures that you know, and how do you guys go about it?
So that's definitely true. We see that cultural difference across a bunch of different countries. So obviously we were founded in the U.S. and started to adapt to the U.S. work culture. But when you go somewhere like Japan, Margarita mentioned in Japan, there's a lot more like business hierarchy. And the nature of our product is very kind of democratic, so that, you know, if Margarita is my boss, I can assign her a task. Whereas in Japan, that might be a little awkward for people because of just more hierarchy. So with that in mind, what we want to make sure that we allow our product to do, and what was the mindset from day one when building the foundation for the product, is that it's flexible enough to adapt to all these different cultures so that you can have the amount of control that you would like. So maybe if somewhere is like a Japanese company wants to have much more like tops down control, they can have that through our enterprise level, which has a lot more admin control and different features. But if they also want to be very democratic, very flat, like a holacracy approach, like Zappos tried to attempt it at some point, you can also do that too, because it's very open and transparent in nature. So we want to make sure that we are adaptable for these different cultures. That being said, we haven't done any like strong feature changes based on the market. So we've localized in terms of language, but we haven't made any major product changes due to those cultural nuances, and I don't think that would be the case anytime soon.
But it's because you were saying like the product itself can like adapt to those cultural nuances without us creating features for them.
Yeah.
Is Zappos using
Sorry?
Asana? You mentioned Zappos?
Zappos, probably.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's
they're on our, we have a wall
We have
of logos.
Zalando.
Zalando?
Zalando's
Yeah.
in
No,
Europe.
but what's interesting about that is their advocacy approach where there's no more
Exactly.
hierarchy
Yeah.
and managers.
Yeah, so you have someone like Zappos who's able to use it, just completely flat and transparent, and I can see what my boss is doing, I can see what this team is doing, I can see what that department's doing, so Zappos can be using it. We also have massive traditional German manufacturing companies using it. So it's flexible for almost everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about those over daily, for example? Do you choose some other plan?
Mhm.
Some strategies?
We have upselling emails that we do on the marketing side, so it's based on like we see like we have some indicators that the users are like really active and they're using like certain features that is a sign for us that it would be a qualified user to upgrade to premium. So
If I may add to the same question, when I was in the music streaming business, the number one reason why people would buy is to have the ability to get the music offline. If you had to say what is the key feature that you don't give out because you know it's going to be a trigger to
there's several
premium,
ones. I will
what are the
say
ones?
custom fields is one.
Custom fields?
Yeah.
What exactly?
So basically, is in a task you're able to create fields to classify things. So
Like labels on
yeah,
cards?
yeah, and you can create your own. So that's one that is really common. We have timeline, which is a Gantt chart that we launched in February. Which other feature?
And what was the first one when you decided to launch a premium version? What did it offer at that time? Do you remember? Maybe you were not there, so it's hard for you.
I'm
but-
trying to remember what the initial one is, but again, I think with your pricing and your packaging and your different tiers, it's all about experimentation. So kind of what I was saying about like the HBML approach, it's about like iteration, right? So you can test something, and if you're not seeing enough conversion, then you're thinking, okay, maybe something's wrong. So you want to reclassify your different features. You don't want to do that too often and piss off your customers, but it is important to keep that in mind as you're testing this. So we want to make sure that our free version has enough functionality that users can get into it and really appreciate the power of Asana. But for those who really want to leverage the value that they can unlock with a lot of these other features, like Margarita was saying, with a lot of our classification fields, with a lot of our Gantt chart data visualization features, we want people to recognize that value, and people who will use it are also willing to pay for it. So that's the difference between free and paid. But again, within paid, we also have several different tiers that are based on the different features that you can unlock with each one, and those
number
are for
of
different.
users, I guess, is also a
Number of users, that's
limitation.
actually, yeah, so that's a very important one too. So with the free version, you can have up to 15 to 20 users. We changed it, I think, recently. 10 to 15.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, when you hit that ceiling, if you're using the product enough and you're really appreciating the value, so maybe a team of you, 10 of you here are working on, you're launching a new company together. So you're at 10 people, yeah, and you're like you're like all coding and you're building this really great product, and you're like, man, we're loving this free version of Asana, but we're using it so well that now we have to add, and our product is doing so well that we're adding 10 more people to our team. Now we're 20 people. Well, you've just hit our ceiling. So now you have to become a premium member. But for you, because you need it and you've already gotten so much value out of the product, it's like a no-brainer that you would be willing to pay what we think is a reasonable price to leverage Asana even further.
Evernote was the same.
Yeah.
Offline projects. It was the first
Offline?
feature.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was premium.
Definitely.
You had a
Another question, how is the future for our project management platforms in terms of innovation and application?
Ooh, that's a good one. So actually, I wish that what we'll do to follow up is we'll make sure to send you our vision video that one of our founders, JR, we just created with him back in the summer. So our long-term vision for work management is to help people work efficiently and give them back the gift of time, and make sure that they're having fewer meetings, but they're able to still get the same amount of work done, but in a compressed time. And one aspect of that our founders really like to talk about is how we can use machine learning and artificial intelligence and all these great buzzwords that you're hearing come out of Silicon Valley to make that even easier. So that
Did you mention blockchain?
sure, blockchain, something crypto, something. Yeah, throw that in there too. Investors will pour more money in. Yeah.
the best.
Just put Bitcoin in your presentation to your investors, and you'll be good. So yes, but using some of those new technologies, we're actually building out our capabilities within Asana in terms of data, like building out machine learning capabilities and AI, as I mentioned, so that eventually, say that you want to run a marketing campaign. Right now you can go into Asana and we can give you a template, but you're kind of building out like, okay, well I need to launch the website and I need to make sure that I do some advertising. Ideally, in the future state, we could take different inputs and just build out that whole project for you so that it would be even less time for you to adapt your projects and be able to create and execute them, and have a lot more kind of like if this then that scenarios, so that it would be a lot more it just would be a more efficient product. So that's kind of the long-term future that we see, and we're building out a lot of our data and systems and engineering capabilities internally to start building out those features. But you have to watch the vision video from our founder because he's much more visionary than I can. Yeah, he's like that.
I was thinking about something on the same subject. I reckon that people would spend less time in front of computers as you get like all the voice assistants and we are connected everywhere, so you can go like Alexa do that, Google do that,
Exactly.
whatsoever. So how would be like actually like working with teams, like you can go everywhere and then you're gonna have like Asana saying like, hey, like we are here, and then suddenly a voice comes and say like, hey, have to do that, something like that. Like, do you guys wonder about like that, or like have plans about like how like personal assistants can actually impact your business as people won't spend that much time in front of computers?
Yeah, we want people to be doing work that's important, work that matters.
Yeah.
So it's really, this is kind of a theme that we use a lot of the time, and the marketing team likes to use a lot too. It's that we want to take away all the bullshit work so that you can focus on the work that matters. And so if Asana develops into some sort of like task management personal assistant, then ideally that gives you more free time to focus on the longer like strategic vision of your company perhaps, or you want to focus more on different business models for your product that you're building out. Well, hopefully Asana can take away all the bullshit work so that you can focus then on the work that matters. And maybe in a future state, Asana just does everything for you, and that would be nice because then you could spend more time just like hanging out and kind of going to the beach and stuff like that. So maybe that's even better.
The work that matters and like a better you, because we're taking care of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I got one more question.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was to relocate to Silicon Valley?
How was what?
To relocate to Silicon Valley, like to start a new life over there?
That was a really interesting question. I think that Silicon Valley, for me, is this like an environment that is really competitive. My old boss will always like tell me this analogy of like actors will go to Hollywood. The best people of the world, like engineers, want to be in Silicon Valley. So I actually never thought that I was going to be able to be where I am right now, because I was like, well, there's no way that I can compete with like Harvard, Stanford, like really good universities, and like the best talent is there. So I felt like really lucky of like my career path, but it's also the results of like working hard, and being passionate about your work. And I understood that it was going to take more time, that probably like being like here in Latin America, but I was like I chose that path, and I was able to kind of like work hard to achieve where I am right now. But I won't lie, it's not easy, especially when you're not American, where you didn't graduate from like a university from there. And again, that analogy is true. Like I was reading the other day an article of like even like the best talent of different cities become average in Silicon Valley, because it's just like the best of the best. So the fact that, and then because of where I am right now, I decided that I actually, being part of the Latino community, there's not a lot of us in Silicon Valley. And I was like, well, I wish that when I moved to Silicon Valley, I had people that can tell me how to navigate the system, which is a little bit different from Latin America. And right now, I am part of this community of Latinas in tech in San Francisco, and like I support other Latinas to help them navigate the system, and like so we can increase that number. And I mean, yeah, and I think that is just about like understanding how to navigate the system and how to get there, and I'm working really hard as well to get what you want.
I would just, one last caveat is I would actually flip that question on you and say like, how can you bring Silicon Valley here? Because nowadays education is so democratized and technology is becoming so much more prevalent. You've got places like the Wagon that can teach people how to code. It's not like you have to go to Silicon Valley to learn all of this stuff now. And I think the benefit of not being in Silicon Valley is actually that there can be a lot more opportunity. There's less competition, both in terms of talent, so maybe you can shine more professionally. There's also fewer companies that you're competing against. So maybe you're finding new opportunities in an industry here in Brazil that's already very crowded in the US. So I think keep that in mind too, that you can still have the best of Silicon Valley without having the worst of it, which is like, it's very expensive to live there. So, take advantage of all the amazing opportunities you have in somewhere like Brazil or in other emerging markets where they don't yet have that level of technology that's just been around in Silicon Valley.
Because a lot of people ask me that question, like how I can move to Silicon Valley, and there's so many things involved. It's starting like with the visa status and all that, and I think that she like brings a really good point. Is like I'm so excited to see that there's like more unicorns that coming like from Latin America. We have Nubank from Brazil. We have Rappi from Colombia, who's like expanding really fast in Latin America. It's like you have great companies here in Latin America that actually you can learn from that, instead of like just going to the most crowded and competitive place in the world. Why like you don't like exactly what MP was saying, like focus on the companies that are here and learn from that, or other like emerging markets.
Yeah, there's a lot of question about the next Silicon Valley. I think the world is turning into a virtual Silicon Valley.
Yeah, you have different hubs, like Berlin, Amsterdam. You have even in Latin America, like Rio, Mexico City, Guadalajara is like starting to become.
But if you need funding, it's hard to not at least visit Silicon Valley often, because
but
that's where the money is.
Yeah, you can fly in and meet with the investors, but then come back to your market and conquer that.
But
market.
it's great that like YC, for example, is starting like to do these tours in like here in Sao Paulo, in Mexico City, like they're going to.
But at the end, the markets are all over the place. So if you want to
Yeah.
have users and customers, you need to be all over. Ayrton, you had a question.
I would actually ask about your company's culture. Some companies are divided by size, larger, larger. So how much of your culture and business is compromised by the size? I mean, when you have this innovative driven politics, I think it must be really difficult to sustain it, right?
You've seen it longer than so you can talk about some of the initiatives that we have to make sure that the culture stays consistent.
Yeah, I mentioned at the beginning that for our founders, since day one, culture was really important, and they treated that as a product. I think that right now we're like in a really interesting moment at the company because we're growing so fast. Like we're adding like new employees, and we're also opening like new offices. So it's like how we can maintain that culture of like mindfulness, and like that they're really focused on like work-life balance, which I think that is like really unique as well in Silicon Valley. So we do try to do like different initiatives to maintain that. Do you want to mention some of them?
Sure.
No.
Yeah, I think there's like two main pieces that are really important for culture. So first, as Margarita mentioned, there's a lot of strong initiatives that you want to put in place, even when you're a really, really small company, so that you can scale, that your culture can scale with your company. So there's different types of trainings that we do to help with kind of like mindfulness and being a really thoughtful leader, how to work better with teams. There's a few different programs that Asana requires for every new employee, and that's from when we were 20 people now to 350 and almost 400, everyone still has to undergo all of that training. So I think that's really important, is to be thoughtful about your culture from day one and how it can scale with your company and putting those initiatives in place. And then second, I think it's really important that you hire the right talent. Like, you want to have the right people in place, not only from the technical point of view, so you need to make sure that they know how to do marketing really well, or they can code in a certain language, but you want to make sure also that they embody the values that you set as a company. And I think having those defined very clearly from day one is part of the formula to make that very successful, so that with each new person you bring on, whether that's the 20th person or the 400th person, they still fit within your values and they'll continue to maintain that culture. Otherwise, it'll just go off the rails.
But we think the productivity of how do you measure their performance? How do you measure learning?
Do you mean like, how do you measure performance of employees, or do you measure how do you measure culture fit?
How do you measure the employees' performance? Because, as you said,
That's a great one.
Yeah, so
how do you measure?
Yeah, that's a great one.
Or 300 people?
yeah, I think that what is also pretty unique about Asana is we have the pyramid of clarity. So basically, and this is really important because basically we have company objectives, and from those companies' objectives we will have KRs, and each KR will be for each team and each employee. So you really know the impact that you're having within the company, and that comes from top down. Yeah. So I from all the companies that I have worked in Silicon Valley, I actually love that about Asana. We didn't have that at Evernote or Weebly. We had some OKRs, but for me, when I started at Asana, I had a really clear vision of what is the mission of the company, what are the 10 objectives of the company, who is working on each objective, and even for me, I knew what is the impact that I had because of that structure. So I think that that's really important too, and that's the way that you can measure the performance of your team. And we're constantly reviewing those objectives and those KR. But I really like that about Asana because it gives me that clarity, and also again that transparency of who is doing what by when, and how you can contribute to the company. I don't know if that responds to your question. I don't know if you have something else.
That's mostly it.
Yeah. With
Great.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap up, and thank you again for your time, for your sharing this experience and the insight. Thank you for Rodolfo, who set that up. Rodolfo was actually one of our first guests when we had a small class of 10, and you accepted to come and explain your former experience at Medium. That was really cool. So thank you again for your time, the sharing, and we wish you the best for Asana. And I hope everybody learn a lot and probably is going to start using Asana right now.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's good to meet all of you. Thank you.